The air inside the Pasadena YMCA smells like old canvas and sweat that has soaked into the walls over decades. It is September 1964, and the afternoon light cuts through high windows in dusty beams that barely reach the wooden floor. Bruce Lee stands near the back wall, arms crossed loosely, watching a demonstration unfold in the center of the room. He is 23 years old, wearing a plain black t-shirt and dark slacks. His posture is relaxed, but his eyes track every movement with the precision of someone who reads bodies the way others read books. The room is full of martial artists from across Southern California. They have gathered for an informal tournament, a showcase of styles where reputations are quietly made or quietly destroyed. Most of the men here are older than Bruce, many with lineages that stretch back generations. They speak in low voices about forms and philosophy, about masters they have studied under, about the difference between true martial arts and what they call showmanship. Bruce has heard these conversations before. He knows that some of these men believe he is exactly that, showmanship. A dancer who moves fast but lacks substance. A Chinese upstart who teaches non-Chinese students and disrespects tradition by doing so. He does not argue with them. He simply waits. On the mat, a heavyweight judoka is demonstrating a throw. The man is broad-shouldered, over 6 feet tall, with the kind of physical presence that makes smaller men instinctively step back. His name is Frank, and he moves with the confidence of someone who has never had to question whether his technique will work. It always works. Size makes it work. When he grabs his partner and executes the throw, the sound of the body hitting the mat reverberates through the room. A few people nod approvingly. Frank stands, brushes off his GI, and scans the crowd with a faint smile. His eyes land on Bruce. "You," Frank says, not unkindly but not warmly either. "You're the Gung Fu guy, right?" Bruce nods once. "I teach Jun Fan Gung Fu." Jun Fan. Frank repeats the words slowly, as if testing them for weight. "That's your own style?" "It is what I have learned and what I am learning." Frank glances at the others, then back at Bruce. "I've heard you're fast. Real fast. But speed doesn't mean much when someone has 50 pounds on you." He shrugs, as if apologizing for a fact of nature. "No offense. I just think people get caught up in mysticism sometimes. Martial arts is physics. Leverage. Massachusetts. You can't fight physics." Bruce does not react. He does not smile or frown. He simply looks at Frank the way a doctor might look at an X-ray, seeing something beneath the surface that has not yet been named. "Would you like to try?" Bruce asks quietly. Frank hesitates. The room goes still. This is not a challenge issued with heat or pride. It is an invitation, delivered in the same tone someone might use to offer tea. But everyone present understands what it means. Frank looks around, and perhaps he feels the weight of the room's attention, or perhaps he genuinely believes this will be instructive. Either way, he nods. "Sure. Let's see what you've got." They move to the center of the mat. Frank assumes a judo stance, knees bent, hands ready to grip. Bruce stands upright, feet shoulder-width apart, hands open at his sides. He looks smaller now, standing opposite Frank. The size difference is not subtle. Frank outweighs him by at least 60 pounds, maybe more. His reach is longer. His frame is built for grappling, for closing distance, and overwhelming an opponent with sheer mechanical advantage. Someone in the crowd murmurs, "This won't take long." Frank moves first. He steps forward with the confidence of a man who has done this 1,000 times, reaching for Bruce's shoulder and collar to establish control. But his hand's close on air. Bruce is already gone, slipped to the side with a movement so economical it barely registers as movement at all. Frank adjusts, reaches again. Again, Bruce is not there. Not behind him. Not in front. Just elsewhere. Frank's breathing changes. It is subtle, but Bruce hears it. The rhythm shifts from calm to effortful. Frank tries a different approach, lunging lower, faster, attempting to use his momentum to trap Bruce against the flow of his own evasion. But Bruce does not evade this time. He meets the lunge, and what happens next occurs in less than 2 seconds. Bruce's hand intercepts Frank's wrist mid-reach. There is no violent jerk, no dramatic flourish. Just contact. Then a pivot, a shift of weight so slight, it looks like Bruce is simply turning to face a different direction. Frank's body follows that turn as if pulled by an invisible wire. His balance collapses. His center of gravity, which moments ago felt rooted and unmovable, is suddenly floating. He realizes he is falling before he understands why. The mat meets his back with a heavy thud. The room is silent. Frank lies there, blinking up at the ceiling, his chest rising and falling. Bruce steps back, giving him space. He does not stand over him. He does not smile or offer a hand in a theatrical display of sportsmanship. He simply waits, hands returning to his sides, posture returning to that same neutral calm. Frank rolls to his side and pushes himself up slowly. His face is flushed, but not with anger. Something else. Confusion, maybe. Or the disorientation that comes when the world does not behave the way you have always known it to behave. He looks at Bruce, then at his own hands, as if checking to see if they are still his. "What did you do?" Frank asks. His voice is quiet now, stripped of its earlier certainty. Bruce considers the question. He does not answer immediately, and the silence stretches long enough that people begin to shift their weight, unsure whether they are witnessing a lesson or an embarrassment. "I did not fight your strength," Bruce says finally. "I followed it." Frank stares at him. "Followed it? You expected resistance. When there was none, your own force moved you." Bruce's tone is not condescending. It is patient, almost gentle. You do not need to be weaker to lose. You only need to expect the wrong response. Frank stands fully now, brushing off his GI again, this time more slowly. He looks at Bruce with something that was not there before. Not respect, not yet, but the beginning of it. The recognition that what he thought he understood about leverage and mass and physics was not wrong, but incomplete. Someone in the crowd clears his throat. Another man steps forward, older, with grey at his temples, and the bearing of someone who has taught longer than Bruce has been alive. His name is Martin, and he is a practitioner of a northern kung fu style that emphasizes powerful, sweeping strikes. He does not look hostile, but his expression carries a quiet challenge. "May I?" Martin asks, gesturing to the mat. Bruce nods. They do not speak as they take their positions. Martin assumes a traditional horse stance, one fist chambered at his hip, the other extended in a guard. Bruce remains upright, hands loose. Martin moves with precision, launching a straight punch aimed at Bruce's centerline. It is fast, technically clean, the kind of strike that has been drilled 10,000 times until it lives in the muscle memory deeper than thought. Bruce moves his head 3 inches to the left. The punch passes by his ear, so close that the air displacement stirs his hair. Martin resets, throws again. This time a hook, then an uppercut, then a combination that flows from one strike to the next with the kind of rhythm that only comes from years of practice. Each punch is a masterpiece of form, and each one finds nothing. Bruce is not blocking. He is not parrying. He is simply not where the punches arrive. His footwork is minimal, his upper body almost still. It is as if he is standing in a rainstorm, and the drops are falling everywhere except on him. Martin stops. His breathing is heavier now, his face tight with concentration. "You are very elusive," he says, and there is a faint edge of frustration in his voice. "I am reading your intention," Bruce replies. "Your body shows me where you will strike before you strike." "That is impossible," Martin says, though his tone suggests he is no longer certain. Bruce steps closer, closing the distance between them until they are almost within grappling range. Your shoulder drops before the cross. Your hip opens before the hook. These are small things, but they are there. You have trained your body to move efficiently, and efficiency creates patterns. Patterns can be read. Martin's jaw tightens. He does not like being lectured, especially by someone younger. But he does not walk away. Instead, he tries again, this time abandoning the combinations and throwing a single, committed punch with all the power and speed he can summon. It is not a demonstration strike. It is real. Bruce does not move until the last possible instant. Then he shifts, so slightly that it looks like he might have simply swayed, and the punch grazes past him. In the same breath, Bruce's hand rises, and stops 1 inch from Martin's throat. Not touching. Just there. A frozen ending to a sequence that never completed. Martin goes very still. His eyes flick down to Bruce's hand, then back up to Bruce's face. Bruce holds his gaze, and in that moment, something passes between them that has nothing to do with victory or defeat. It is understanding. Martin has spent decades perfecting a system, and in 3 exchanges, he has seen that system read and bypassed. Not because it is flawed, but because Bruce is operating with a different grammar. Bruce lowers his hand and steps back. "Your technique is excellent," he says, and he means it. But technique is only part of the conversation. Martin exhales slowly. He bows, a deep, formal bow that acknowledges not just skill, but something less tangible. Bruce returns the bow with equal depth. The room is no longer silent. People are talking now, but in hushed tones, the way audiences speak when a film ends, and they are still processing what they have seen. Some of the martial artists look skeptical, trying to find explanations that fit within their existing frameworks. Others look unsettled, as if the ground beneath their understanding has shifted just enough to notice. Bruce walks back to the wall where he started. He does not address the room. He does not offer to demonstrate further. He simply stands there, arms crossed loosely, watching as the next demonstration begins. But Frank and Martin do not leave the mat immediately. They stand together, speaking in low voices, occasionally glancing back at Bruce. Frank's expression is no longer confident. It is open, curious, the look of someone who has just discovered that a door they thought was locked has been open the entire time. Martin's face is more conflicted, pride wrestling with the intellectual honesty that comes from genuine mastery. Eventually, they both walk over to Bruce. "Can you teach that?" Frank asks. Bruce looks at him for a long moment. "I can teach you to see it. Whether you learn it depends on whether you are willing to unlearn first." "Unlearn what?" Martin asks. "The idea that what you already know is enough." The two men exchange a glance. It is not an easy thing to hear, especially for people who have spent years building their identities around their systems. But neither of them argues. They simply nod, and in that nod, there is the beginning of transformation. Bruce does not stay for the rest of the tournament. He leaves quietly, slipping out through a side door as the next match begins. Outside, the late afternoon sun is softer, the heat of the day fading into the cool promise of evening. He walks to his car, a modest sedan parked under a tree, and sits behind the wheel for a moment without starting the engine. He is thinking about what just happened, but not in the way someone might replay a victory. He is thinking about Frank's question, "What did you do?" and his own answer, "I followed it." These are the moments that matter to Bruce, not because they prove anything to anyone else, but because they clarify something for him. Martial arts is not about imposing your will on another person. It is about understanding the flow of energy and intention, and moving within it with such precision that resistance becomes unnecessary. This is what he will spend the rest of his life trying to articulate. Not just in demonstrations, but in writing, in teaching, in films that reach millions of people who will never step onto a mat. He is searching for a way to make the invisible visible, to translate the language of the body into something that can be understood beyond the confines of a dojo or a tournament hall. But he does not know that yet. Right now, he only knows that two men who came to the mat with certainty left with questions, and that questions are the only honest starting point. He starts the engine and drives home. 3 years later, Frank will tell a reporter that the moment on the mat changed the way he thought about fighting. He will say that he stopped trying to overpower people and started trying to understand them, and that this shift made him not just a better martial artist, but a better teacher. Martin will write an article in a martial arts magazine in which he argues that the future of Kung Fu lies not in preserving tradition for its own sake, but in testing tradition against reality and keeping only what works. He will not mention Bruce by name, but those who were in the room that day will know who he is writing about. Bruce himself will rarely speak of the encounter. When students ask him about it years later, he will describe it in technical terms, timing, distance, sensitivity, but he will not frame it as a triumph. To him, it was simply an exchange. Two people testing their understanding against each other, and both walking away with more understanding than they arrived with. There is a photograph from that day, though it is not widely circulated. Someone in the crowd had a camera, and in the moment after Bruce released Martin's wrist, they clicked the shutter. The image is grainy, black and white, shot from a low angle that makes Bruce appear taller than he is. His face is calm, almost blank, but his eyes are alive with focus. Martin is slightly out of frame, his body still caught in the motion of the interrupted punch. In the background, other martial artists are frozen mid-gesture, their faces registering surprise, confusion, fascination. The photograph will surface decades later in an auction, and someone will pay a significant amount of money for it, not because it captures a fight, but because it captures a shift. A before and after compressed into a single frame. But on the day it was taken, it is just another image in a roll of film. And Bruce Lee is just another young martial artist, trying to figure out how to say something true in a language most people do not yet speak. He does not know that within a decade, that language will reach the entire world. He only knows that on a September afternoon in Pasadena, in a room that smelled like old canvas and sweat, two men asked him what he did. And he told them the only thing that mattered. I followed it. How many moments like this, small and unrecorded, shape the trajectory of a life in ways that only become visible when looking backward from the end?